Anyone who, this is your first time attending an AI Kenya event? Nice. Clap for yourselves. Well, the reason I'm asking that is because the interest to attend this event was so high, we had to extend the sale of tickets. We did one extension until we couldn't extend the ticket sales any further. So a round of applause for you guys for being in the room. So, some of you came either because the company paid for, or your boss, or your board of directors said you must be here. Yeah, and you had no option but to come. But really, what is in it for you? What do you stand to gain? What do we have in store for you today? So, this summit will give you a competitive edge, positioning you at the forefront of technological innovation to gain early insights into emerging trends in AI, and you get a chance to contribute to shaping the AI ecosystem in Africa. You also get the chance to establish yourself as a thought leader in your respective industry. We have people from media, telecommunications, marketing, we have diverse people. We have medics within us. We also have someone from the construction industry. So this summit gives you a unique opportunity to position yourself as a thought leader in whatever industry you are in. Also, you get to understand and influence the direction of AI adoption across East Africa. So you can be sure that you will glean a lot of insights. Our theme for the day is transformative AI, from efficiency gains to strategic advantage. Understanding AI is one thing. Implementing it successfully in your businesses is another. We are here to see how can we successfully implement AI in our businesses, and for the people who have already implemented it, what can we learn from them? So you can be sure we'll have a lot of insights packed for you. Different people mentioned their different strategic advantages. And with a team of leaders, I actually wanted to ask you guys what you think your strategic advantages are. But because of time, I won't. We can probably have that conversation a bit later on. But together with a team of leaders and innovators, today we will be exploring AI's transformative potential. This half-day summit, I emphasized on half-day because a time is coming when we'll do full day. Yeah, we're manifesting. We can dream, right? Yes? Exactly. This half-day summit will focus on how organizations are redefining AI from a tool of efficiency to a driver of growth, competitive advantage, and strategic decision-making, which is very important. Even before we jump right into business, I want to remind you, please, let's keep sharing this conversation on social. Let's have the world know we are shaping the future of AI in Africa. And you can use the hashtag AI Kenya, hashtag AI Kenya Breakfast Summit, hashtag AKBS, and hashtag AI for Africa. This is our exciting speaker lineup. We have Juliana Rotich. Well, yes, that's the theme. If you could go back to the speaker lineup. Yes, this is the exciting lineup of speakers, and they're here and ready to share with you. So our first speaker of the day is someone who has been instrumental in making today happen. This is the brains behind the inaugural summit. Even just right before that, okay, let's go back to the program. I can take you guys through the program, that's fine. So we've done everything up to the welcome and opening remarks. We'll have our main keynote session, which is what we're just about to do right now. We'll then delve into AI use cases, keynotes, panel discussion, and Q&A session, followed by the AI infrastructure session. We'll have our sponsor address, group photo, and the closing remarks. Now, I can go to our first speaker of the day. Let's get the day rolling. Nice. So our first speaker of the day is someone who has been really instrumental in us being here today. He's the dreamer, the vision bearer. He's a seasoned AI and emerging technology leader with over 8 years of experience in driving AI innovation and strategic partnerships in East Africa. As the founder and CEO of AI Kenya, he has established East Africa's largest community with over 7,000 members who consist of AI professionals, researchers, developers, and tech enthusiasts. So under his leadership, AI Kenya has been recognized with prestigious accolades, among them being Best Tech Community in Kenya 2019 and Best AI Community in Africa 2020. He has over 10 years of experience in the IT consulting industry, having served as Chief Technology and Product Officer for multiple organizations in the telecommunications and fintech space. Please, with a standing ovation, help me welcome to the stage CEO and founder, AI Kenya, Alfred Ongere. A standing ovation, please, for our CEO. We can do better than that.
Yes, I would say this is actually the biggest day in my 8-year journey in working in AI. This is the first time we're getting business leaders within such a big audience of over 180 people. So thank you so much for believing, and thank you much for coming. So please, a round of applause for yourselves. Yes, so as she mentioned, I'm Alfred Ongere, not Ongere. I think someone on the production team is being fired today. Africans, we take apostrophes very seriously. So that's a serious typo. And this is why I think we need AI agents, because my AI agent would know that my name doesn't have an apostrophe. But that's on a light note. So we are running behind a bit. I think, next slide. We are running behind a bit, so I'll quickly breeze through. AI Kenya was started in October 2017 with a goal of democratizing machine intelligence in Kenya, but with time, that has grown to cover the whole of Africa. We have a couple of different members from many countries, but about 90% of our audience is Kenyan. So it's a community of practitioners and enthusiasts who are interested in AI and advancing AI. So we exist to democratize machine intelligence and making AI accessible to everyone. We see ourselves as an ecosystem builder. So we take the job of ensuring that the standard of AI in the country is at the right level. And how we do this is by helping people learn, helping people grow, helping people engage, helping people stay informed. So by learning, we've been doing different trainings, developer trainings, corporate trainings over the last 7-8 years, growing by bringing events like this where you are able to network with other people. You're able to see the benchmark of what other people are working on in terms of AI. Engaging, we have a very active WhatsApp channel, which all of you can join today if you're not already part of it. And we always have conversations around policy. We always have conversations around what is happening in the global stage in terms of AI, DeepSeek, NVIDIA, the national AI strategy for Kenya, and so on. So in case you have not joined our meetup group, in case you are not in the WhatsApp group, you can quickly scan this QR code. One of the buttons is a WhatsApp joining invitation. We also have Telegram, and then it has all our socials. So I'm honored today to now introduce our next speaker, but I think I'll leave that to our summit host. But just as she's coming, this is someone I've been following over the years in terms of the work they do. And I've always been requesting a keynote for them for over 7-8 years. So it has finally happened today. So a big round of applause to Juliana Rotich.
I wanted to start by just mentioning that last week I had the privilege of collaborating with several Africans in a series of sessions at Davos. Obviously, people have different feelings about Davos, but moving along now. And it was a really great engagement. We were hosted at the Africa House, which was a specific area to have conversations that are Africa-focused, led by Kojo Annan and Mamadou Touré, and Pax Technologica, which was founded by Thomas Amakora and Paul Hughes, basically people who are engaged in looking at the issues around Africa. So I'll breeze through the presentation really quickly and with 3 key thoughts to leave with you. So the context of the presentation was around the idea of what sort of policy and tech possibilities and prospects there are for Africa. So I'll just start. Generally speaking, when we look at, tech does not exist outside the context of society. I think that's one thing that we can all agree that, so sometimes us guys who are in the tech space sometimes get really tunnel visioned about technology, its possibilities, its dangers, all of these things. But we must acknowledge that technology exists as part of society. So as we think about technology and its possibilities, we must, there's an author called Kevin Kelly, who's the maverick who started Wired magazine. And in his book, The Technium, he talks about this thing where technology as a word is not divorced from the functionality and the effects on society and the actual utility of using the piece of technology. And AI is part of that construct. So that's point number 1. Tech does not exist outside of the construct of society. So specifically, when you're looking at public policy, just some definitions to guide us. GovTech, this is use of technology for government use. And then there's public policy on tech issues, which is relevant for us because there's an AI Kenya draft guidelines which have been circulating and I think will be circulated to you if you do not have them. I think it's important for us to know what these suggestions are to our government, to the Kenyan government, and also there are other African countries who are looking at policy directions specifically for their countries. And so just those are 2 quick definitions. And then who is doing great technology policy globally and what principles guide good policy, good technology policy, and how can we work together on technology issues? So I'll just go through these really quickly. This was done in conjunction with Aaron Menien, who teaches in Oxford and is a brilliant colleague and friend of mine at Pax Technologica. So one of the big things that we can learn is, I don't know how many of you have seen a video of a Singaporean lawmaker talking about AI and how Singapore is going to be using AI to make a leap. How many of you saw that video? Yeah, someone knows what I'm talking about. So I think Singapore is a really important nation for us to pay attention to, not only because of its public policy, but also because it's a fintech hub unlike any other. And it also has incredible policies around land use, and it's one of the greenest places in the world. It's my favorite place in the whole wide world, outside of Kenya, of course. But it's a place that we really can learn from, and let's learn from them, specifically from their Smart Nation project. So these are various systems that the Singaporean government has. So it has digital birth and death certificates, LifeSG, multilingual digital services, and all of the various services that they have. And when you go into Singapore, the experience of coming into Singapore is very, very efficient. There are ambitions to upgrade the eCitizen platform and the experience of that to not necessarily match this, but to get close to that level of efficiency when it comes to public digital services. So I'll just, and then there's the Rwanda's Digital Acceleration Project, which is also something to learn from, where they've spent about 200 million. They've increased access and improved quality of broadband and digital public services. And how many of you, I'm sure many of you have traveled to Rwanda and marvel at not only how it's well organized, but also how their digital services are quite world-class. And for Rwanda, these are the key tenets where access, literacy, connectivity, they have really good broadband. Probably not as good as ours, but almost as good. And digital public service delivery, where they have digital ID, authentication, data management, and also project management. And they have high-level partnerships with Carnegie Mellon and several US universities, where Carnegie Mellon has a presence there. And there's also Africa Leadership University, amongst other universities. And that's really taking care of the talent pipeline and how that serves the local tech ecosystem is really important. Sierra Leone, digital access and resilience, contingency emergency response component, and digital government services also. Estonia and X-Road, many of you are very familiar with these. I'll just breeze through really quickly. And so just really quickly around the 10 policy principles to think about. And these are not just for government or government-facing companies. I think there's a part of it that is important for us who are in the private sector, and I'll highlight that shortly. So the key is citizen-centered or user-centered design. In everything that we do, we must think about the user experience and user utility, and make sure that for a minute, we need to think about the fact that, look, we're designing these things for each of us. So whatever harms that come out of our products and their adoption, we need to be responsible for it, right? No one is coming, unless if they're coming to come take your resources, to take your data, or to take your attention. No one is coming. So whatever we build, we must build with great responsibility, because that is the nature of, this is how things are right now. So user-centered design, and really when you think about user-centered and citizen-centered design, think about the outcomes. What sort of experience do you want? And then also, what sort of effect does this tool or tools have on the person who's using it? So those are pretty classic view of UX process, where you've got testing, you define the issue, and the framing of the problem is important. Even when we're talking about AI and we're talking about AI adoption, we must remember to frame the problem correctly. If you don't frame the problem correctly, then you will have a problem actually with the solution, because you could create a solution that doesn't necessarily deal with the problem at hand. Expect harm and, okay. So this quote is important because as the other speakers will attest, and I'm not sure, Alfred, if you'll mention it, but technology has always been a double-edged sword. I don't need to tell you that for each capability that is there, it can be used for either good or not so good outcomes. So just a note about that we must balance the risks and also negative outcomes that come out of the use of technology. This is not going to change just because we have new AI models or new AI capabilities. It continues to be a reality that technology is a double-edged sword, and the advances that we are seeing, same thing. Whatever possibilities and power that there is the possibility for harm. The benefits can be hugely transformative, as we know. We live in a country where we have seen what technology has done for our own quality of life, or at least there is so much less friction now than there was 10, 12 years ago when it comes to accessing the internet, when it comes to collaborating, when it comes to driving down the cost of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship now costs a lot less, and with the recent advances with DeepSeek, the importance is that the costs to innovate they keep going down. And that is a good thing, because when the costs go down, it levels the playing field a lot more, so that you don't have to be extremely wealthy to be able to integrate technology into your practices. Neither do you need to have special access to gatekeepers or special access to certain people who can actually help you get going. Although the classic bits of making sure that you have a solid business strategy and unit economics, that's not going to change. At the end of the day, you still have to have good unit economics to make your business work. But the benefits of using not only technology but also AI are extremely transformative, and there's a lot of potential there. So being a smart nation is not about flaunting glitzy technology, but applying technology to solve real problems. So this quote reminds me of Bob Collymore, who said something along those lines, actually. He said, there's no shortage of innovation. There's just a shortage of useful innovation that meets need. I will stop for a moment and ask all of you, how many of you still see a need, particularly in your own, either your own company, your own organization, or in the society? Because I know this is an Africa-wide event. How many of you still see problems that can be solved? That's virtually all of us, right? Do you feel that we are giving sufficient attention to these problems that plague us as Kenyans, as Africans, as humanity? Are we giving enough attention to the shared problems that we have? Are we? Not really, right? One of the key problems that I see here is, and I don't want to sound like a policy wonk, but when I see the millions of Kenyans walking down the street, unemployment, when someone is looking for a job, every other day somebody is messaging me and saying, Juliana, can you find me a job? Can you find me a job? Can you find me a job? And it breaks my heart, because there's only so many opportunities that are available. For each of you who is an entrepreneur here, I'd like to encourage you. We need to create more and more enterprises that create jobs. There is a risk in terms of, it's a choice really. As a leader, you will have a choice. Do you integrate technology in a way that reduces the number of jobs, or do you integrate technology in a way that increases the number of jobs, right? It sounds like a very old school question, but you're all people who are leaders in your various spheres of influence. It's something we must think about and rededicate ourselves to. So if you've created 2-3 jobs, you're hiring 10, 15 people, 50 people, 6,000 people, 10,000 people, please do not forget that the job is to create more and more jobs. Why? These are people who need these opportunities. Many of them are putting a lot of effort to upskill themselves, to get to understand what the problems are happening in the world. But I will say this again, no one is coming. We must be the ones who create the enterprises, that create the jobs, that adopt the technology in the fastest, most constructive way possible. I will repeat that. We are the ones to adopt and constructively create opportunities for each other and for others. Guess what? Because if we don't do that, it's going to be very difficult for you to justify your privilege. Many of us are privileged, but give it a thought to what would be the future of this society if we don't do our part to create more opportunity. And it is truly a choice where you can decide to either use an AI agent or train several people in order to use AI agents constructively. I will stop there by mentioning two key things, or actually three. One is to think about how we create models that ring-fence data, because years ago, there's a book by Jonathan Zittrain. It was called The Future of the Internet and How to Stop It. And in that book, it talks about generativity. In that book, I will remind you that generativity is an act of creativity. It's an act of creation, right? So, I would like to encourage you that generativity needs to remain an imperative of each of us. We must not cede that to machines. And it's okay if it has that capability, but you can choose to use that capability in a way that creates more value. So that's point number one. And in that book, he mentions that there is this tension between security and freedom. And also in that book, he mentions that in the future, the future of the internet is really important. It's important to think about use of open source technology. And it's very gratifying to hear, well, it's encouraging to hear that, to know that DeepSeek is actually an open source stack. So one, not only does it reduce the cost, but also it harkens back to the time when we were all very, very, very exuberant about the possibilities of using open source technology for our companies, for our nations, and for the betterment of society. So I think it's a really great reminder to go away from walled gardens or technology that you cannot improve upon to technology that you can improve upon. This technology, and amongst others that are available as part of the legacy of open source technology, is that you can improve upon it, you can use it in the best way possible to drive the outcomes that you want, right? So ring fence the technology, create the AI models, and be clear about framing the problem that you're trying to solve for. Number two, iterate. Keep iterating. This is something that we must keep doing. And all of us are not at the apex of what it is we're doing. But we must keep learning. We must keep improving on all the various use cases. All of you have various use cases that you are tackling, or you have various questions that you're trying to answer. And it's important for us to do that, and to do that collaboratively. And because, like I mentioned earlier, we have that shared responsibility to address all the various issues, making sure that we think about security, we think about outcomes, we think about public good. And lastly, it's an imperative for all of us is to infinitely learn. We must continue to upskill ourselves and to share that knowledge, share what we can in order to help to enable each of us to get better at what we do. Last but not least is to continue to build and innovate. This is the home of innovation. Kenya is truly the home of innovation. I don't have to repeat about the impact of M-Pesa. I had the privilege of starting several foundational projects and companies like Ushahidi, the crowdsourcing platform, and co-founding the iHub, which continues to be a great community. So just to encourage all of you to continue to build, to innovate, to collaborate, and let's harness this technology and the potential that there is in AI advancements and really focus it on the local problems that we have. And if you can do something to create an extra job for another Kenyan, another African, please do so. Thank you.
What I didn't tell you about her before she came on stage is that she's a fintech leader, angel investor, and tech entrepreneur of repute with years of experience spearheading and scaling technology companies that operate in markets both domestic and international. Her personal mantra, and maybe she can just attest to this, is to build impactful technology, fix problems, and help others. So for her, anywhere that technology and science can help to find just this intersection, she loves to just, get in there and make a difference. She's also a champion for internet connectivity in underserved areas, science education, financial literacy, inclusion, and empowerment. She's an ardent supporter of Learning Lions in Turkana, and she's a highly sought-after advisor, currently serving as board member, AI Ethics, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Standard Media Group, MOOC Africa, Safaricom Money Transfer Service Limited, Blue Consulting, Atlas AI, and Kenya Vision 2030, just to name a few. Yeah? Yeah, that's her. So a round of applause for her moving address. Thank you very much, Juliana. And now I would like to invite our next speaker of the day. He is the CEO and co-founder of Power IT Solutions, a Kenyan cloud and technology solutions company that specializes in tech, cloud computing, AI, and data solutions, established in 2013. He brings a wealth of experience and expertise gained from enabling, get this, more than 450 customers in over 22 African countries with cloud adoption and digital transformation. He holds a Master's of Science in Information Systems Management from the University of Liverpool and an Executive MBA from the Quantic School of Business and Technology. Please, with a round of applause for our next speaker, please help me welcome to the stage Oscar Limoke.
I have the misfortune advantage of having to come after Juliana. I don't know how you match that energy. But anyway, that's part of the job, having to fill in very large shoes. Thank you very much, Juliana. And while she was just speaking, I think I realized I actually am an AGI. When she was saying a couple of things there, my neural networks were firing and connecting things, and I was like, ooh, I really must be a smart AI. And one of the things she said is, when you walk into Singapore, it's very easy to, just entering in. I happen to have been there 2 years ago. A very humble brag, that one. And I didn't like it because I just whizzed through. They didn't stamp my passport. Where's the joy in not having a stamp on your passport? I mean, where's the joy of just not going through the queues, and entering and knowing, yeah, so there's a stamp. So if I give you my passport, you wouldn't know I was there because it was just scanning and phew. You know, the only evidence I left was the JKI in and out stamp. So, you know, I was not very, very pleased with that, in quotes. So my conversation today is around customer engagements and closely also relates to what Juliana was talking about. Leveraging technology or showing or flaunting. I think I'm just going to reread what she had, a very interesting quote that says, being a smart nation is not about flaunting glizzy technology, but applying it to solve problems. I think that can be said true to AI, that having amazing AI is not all about flaunting how we have the most and the smartest model, right? It's not all about showing, yeah, we have an AI that can process whatever speed or multiple things you can, but figuring out what is it we are leveraging this AI to solve a particular challenge or business problem. In our case, we identified a single business problem, and that's about customer engagement within contact center operations, and how can we leverage AI to enable business to understand their customers. I think everybody here, whether you're in business, whether you're an employee, you really, really crave for the opportunity and ability to really, really understand your business, understand your customers, and really figure out how to respond to them proactively. True or false? True. It's true. You want to understand your people proactively, so you are not, responding to fires when they've already gotten, out of hand. And before I get started, I know I'm going to say something that I'm sure Alfred will not like, and will likely not want to have me here again. I was following a conversation recently on X that said, the US has given us Gemini, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and all the likes. China has given us DeepSeek. India will give us 1,000 people who will train us and give us videos on how to use those two. And I'm going to say another offensive thing. I'm sure if you are here, please excuse me. It was just very funny. And Nigerians will give us 1,000 scammers who will use AI to scam us. So, no offense to the nations mentioned in this conversation. It wasn't my conversation. So I found it very, very interesting. And the question I was asking or dissing, Kenyans will talk a lot about how they are very advanced in leveraging AI. True or false? We like to really talk a big game. True or false? Yeah, but when we ask what model or what capabilities have we shown, we'll say we have MAI. I think our next innovation should be MAI, right? Or is it going to be, I'm kidding. So I'm going to go straight to my deck, and we've all, I think if I was to say, stand up every time I mention if you've received an email, a text, a WhatsApp that has any of these words, turbocharging your business through AI. How many have received an email that has the word turbocharge? How many? Come on, we know you've received or you've sent it. You have, right? Unleashing the power of AI in your business transformation. How many? How many have sent that email? Yeah, we see you, yeah? Even there are people here who have sent, they are not saying, we see you, yeah? Or leveraging the capability of AI to unlock or disruptive, and many of these words are very intimidating, or as we say them, or we tell people, they sound very, very exciting. They make us look very smart. They make us look like we really, really understand our, excuse my language, our shit. But if you look keenly and figure out, what are we actually saying? What are we telling people? They say simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I need to tell you something that will help you understand what am I really doing with this AI to actually solve a particular use case. And another interesting quote I just stumbled across today morning, and again, Alfred is not going to like it. It says, AI is for those who have finished eating. Right? Have we even started eating ourselves here? Have we started eating? And it was very, I had a deep reflection around it. And the thought came to my mind that by the time we need to adapt and infuse all these capabilities we are talking about, we need to solve for the very basics that we need. We need to be food sufficient, right? We need to have all these things. If you can leverage all these technologies we have and solve for those problems, then we'll start eating. I think it's just food for thought. Anyway, let me get started with my conversation. So, customer engagements generate tons of data, and we engage our customers through multiple channels. We have tons of documents. I think I sign hundreds of contracts in a year. You know, some of them, or a good number of them, have to be physical. You know, my bank insists before they make a change in a certain simple thing on my business banking, I need to sign a paper document. I need to fill it and sign and send it and send someone there. You know, there are entities where you must sign the contract and put a stamp. True or false? We generate all those kind of data as we engage with businesses, yeah? And we make lots of calls. You know, there are call center people here. There are hundreds of calls being received in a day, talking to all your customers, you know, people complaining. And I like this particular concept of engaging with human beings, and it will form a big component of my conversation. And we generate chat transcripts. I think Instagram DM for price. You know, WhatsApp Business has become one of the biggest e-commerce platform here. Who would have thought? Every transaction happens either, or every engagement and business happens on WhatsApp, DMs. You purchase everything by those engagements with your customers. True or false? And of course, other channels like interactive chatbots on your website, on your app, in-app conversations and all that. And all this data also comes with huge amount of metadata. You know, how long did I converse? Who was I conversing with? What was the duration? What was the topic in that conversation? And the likes. And interestingly, this becomes a lot interesting area where AI can be very, very useful, because the amount of unstructured data we generate, I think I was reading a report, most of the data we generate, over 90% is unstructured, and businesses are unable to use this data effectively. And about 50% of employees spend about 50% of their time trying to figure out where information is. You know, you just want to know, where is that file that talks about this? Where is that? So just going through all the company's repositories and whatever to find out where is the particular information that I need, where is the email that I need, where is this data that I need to do my job. So that is the area where we figure out we can leverage a couple of AI. And I'm going to give you very interesting stats, around customers. I'm not going to go through it, but this is from a HubSpot State of Customer Expectations report. And interestingly, I'll just read a few of them. 98% of your customers don't care for your IVR. They don't want to listen to it. You know, you think you're making that nice tune, people, press one to press. They just want to go straight to a human being, which is quite interesting, because we are in the era of AI where we are trying to automate and make some of these things automatically engage and provide answers to customers. But repeatedly, the data is also trying to tell us, as humans, we just want to talk to other humans. True or false? When I make a call to any service provider that I have, or when I open a case or a ticket, whatever it is, after a few attempts, try to get that ticket solved on email, or I just want to talk to somebody and get it solved. You know, I don't want to keep bouncing back and forth. What's the status? What is this? I want to talk to you. You quickly tell me what's happening or not happening, and it ends. And if you don't treat your customers very well, what is this screen? 92% will switch to another provider after 3 or so failed attempts. I think even 3 is generous. Personally, after 2, I'm out. I have the privilege of having worked with all the internet service providers in Kenya, and we all know how they are. I'm not going to name them. You start with this one, They'll start giving you excuses. You say, oh, and, and when you call them, they will tell you, have you tried switching on and off? I'm just like, surely. I can see the router is just, the first thing they tell those guys, just tell somebody, have you tried switching it on and off? It reminds me about that series, The IT Crowd, where the answer is always switch on and off. That's the first response. The agents, it's infuriating, right? So 92% will switch if they don't have a very good customer experience, right? And your agents, 76% of them will always give conflicting answers over the same issue. Have you ever called somebody, you tell them, this is my case. They give you one response. And when you call another one, but the same, or another day, they'll tell you a different answer completely. Or they tell you, we don't do that, we can't do that, right? So I think those are some of the challenges that are available in the customer engagement space. And of course, most of them always feel like we are case numbers. You call, what's your case number? What's your ticket number? So it's no longer you as a human who is frustrated or something that is happening. What's your ticket number? Let's solve your ticket and we get going. So some of these challenges is where we analyze and figure out what are some of the solutions available out there that can help businesses engage their customers, understand them, and provide insights that can help them, be very responsive to their customer needs. So there are solutions, don't get me wrong. Sorry. Yeah. So this again is me again attempting to just provide you with more details about your customers. Our customers are engaging you across very multiple touch points, very many channels, and they have various expectations. I'll start having a chat with you on WhatsApp. I get tired, I leave to my phone, I need to call you or on email. And I expect when I call you after having sent you an email, you will pick up where we were talking, what we were talking. Don't start asking me, what was it you were talking about? We expect that seamless transition from all the channels I was talking about to be connected together. And there isn't just very, very, very good systems or good technology that has been able to do that. Likely, maybe when I was sending an email, it went to the support crew, the support group. When I call, it will go to a ring group, completely removed from that. The WhatsApp people is managed by community managers, including, all those. So they're very disjointed and disconnected, and it becomes quite frustrating, right? And then we have what I call document chaos. As I told you, about 50% of employees spend 50% of their time. Employees spend 50% of their time looking for where data is. Right? Those documents we are all signing. Where is our standard operating procedures? Where is the manual? Where is this? And the 95% side, they need to manage unstructured data. I think in the structured data space, we are fantastically doing well. I think very many people are building fantastic solutions and capabilities. That's I'm not very concerned. I think I'll be talking about more on the unstructured space. And then I call them insight sheets. You can see how I use language quite loosely. Our insights, our intelligence, many people here, we know. We will say we are data-driven organizations, but when you go to our repository, we have 1,000 spreadsheets. Version 1, version 2, version 3, final, true or false? I mean, our intelligence largely is here on sheets. I was working with a bank and they were transparent. Our analytics, most of them is done on spreadsheets. We have Power BI, we have all those things, but those things are just... So we download the reports and analyze them on sheets. I see some people here agreeing and say yes. True or false? We have all manner of spreadsheets that we are data-driven. And it's true, even me, I'm not going to lie and say even as we have very many spreadsheets that I look at every day. Right? So in the customer engagement tool area, there are a couple of solutions. Sorry. Yeah, I already talked about this. And interestingly, I'm talking about this, but I'm also bringing in AI because customers want also faster and speedy resolution about repeat cases. I happen to be working with an e-commerce provider, and they were telling me 90% of the calls they receive is people asking them, do you have a branch in Nyali, what time does it open? You see that? So what are those opportunities we can actually engage? So by discovering the actual opportunities where you can build AI for your business and business use case, that's what I'm trying to get at, you are really, really driving business value and also solutions to your business. This is one area where AI perfectly works. You know, when I call you, we've built our interactive audio chatbot. It tells me immediately, if I'm asking such a very clear question, we have a branch in this place, it opens from this to this. Do you need any further information? You know, it's very, very, very perfect. So those are some of the areas I think we're exploring, and we think AI capabilities are very, very fantastically suited for it. When I need to call the bank and get, what's my balance? I can have an interactive chatbot that is connected to a banking system that validates me, what's your security question, tells me all those things, and asks me, this is your balance, right? And there are actually tools around that. You'll realize I'm talking about tools I have experience and we've worked with. One of them is called Google Contact Center as a Service. It provides a very omni-channel capability to connect to your contact center and the existing systems to exactly do what I say. So it allows you to create interactive bots, voice and chat bots, that allow your business and customers to engage using the chatbots first. And if it's unable to resolve, it escalates to a human agent. By the time it's escalating to a human agent, the agent is provided with something called Agent Assist. And Agent Assist is basically telling you, this is a summary conversation I was having with Oscar. He was having an issue with X. So an agent is able to actually know, I'm talking to Oscar, he was already calling and he had an issue with X. So I don't need to ask him, what was your issue again? You see that? And from there, I can now provide very good and personalized experience to the customer. So there exist such tools, and I'm not here to sell or market them, I'm just mentioning. There also exist tools around document management and extraction of information from complex documents and all that. But interestingly, our area of interest is an area called conversational insights. It's a way to analyze and understand your customers. All these capabilities allow you, for instance, to analyze calls, engagements. I can pick audio calls, audio conversations, pass it through this system, and it will give me things like transcripts, sentiments, summaries of the call conversation. It works perfect. However, what we discovered is it's never adapted for Africa. It works flawlessly when I'm speaking French, speaking English, speaking American English. But when I speak Kenyanese, and you know what Kenyanese is? Do you know who knows Kenyanese? Kenyanese ni vile naongea hivi nimeswitch alafu naanza kuambia unanidigi, unanidiglo. Sio ni Kenyanese. And how do we engage? And it's not just a Kenyan thing, it's actually an African thing. Our way of engagement and talking is very multilingual and multi-speak. True or false? And some of these models, actually all these models are unable to have that way of reasoning and understanding. You know, when I speak, some of these speech-to-text models were completely unable to help. So when I pass these audios, these conversations, it's unable to give me the results. So having discovered this, we realized, you know what, we need to build something that actually will speak Kenyanese, and by so doing, it was able to speak actually African. How does it work? We provide it or integration into a contact center and stream all your audio, which in all your conversations, whether it's from audio or other multiple channels. And then we provided a way where we had localized and provided with local context. So it knows I'm speaking from Kenya. It expects me to speak and switch languages. And when I switch when I speak and I'm switching languages mid-sentences and all that, it still retains the context. So at the end of the day, when I ask it to summarize the conversation that has happened in my call, it does that with so much accuracy because it has not lost the context. And it's also able now to convert my audio into speech. So that allows you as a business now to provide better and accurate insights. So that's a real specific area we have identified, and we are leveraging AI to actually give you, as a business, I mean, who runs your contact center? You know, we were talking to somebody and they tell us they receive about 5,000 calls in a day. And how do they extract insights out of it? They say they rely on the agents to write a summary of what the call was and what the issue was. I mean, I'm human. I'm not going to snitch myself and say I was rude to that agent. Will I? I will always say that this customer is just trouble. True or false? So you end up not losing the opportunity to actually understand. And now with these AI capabilities, we can process all those conversations in a few minutes, in a few hours, automatically without the human involvement, and get sufficient data to enable you as a business to hey, our customers are always having issues. Like there's a bank, people make a joke, every Friday they switch off. So you want to understand such things proactively and know which is our biggest issue our customers have and how can we enable our products to better resolve that. So that's an area, and those are actual results we've tested around Afrikaans, Zulu, Kenyanese. I wish the deco was very nice. If you've listened to a podcast called Ikonini, we were able to test it in that Kenyanese, and we got very, very fantastic results. So that's an area we are working on, and the results we found about higher 90% accuracy in terms of summarizing conversations, giving you accurate transcripts with the language flow as it is. Thank you very much.
Now, I want us to transition to our next speaker of the day. And this one is actually quite interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what AI is doing in agriculture, and more specifically, soil science. We're having a good morning so far? Nice. You're enjoying the sessions? All right. So our second keynote speaker of the day is a soil science expert researcher on soil health improvement strategies, and she is experienced in production management. She's passionate about smallholder farms, soil health improvement, and environmental conservation. She is the CEO and co-founder of RIA Soil Health Management Limited, and last but not least, she holds a Bachelor of Science in Biotechnology and is currently enrolled for a Master's of Science in the same biotechnology. Please help me welcome to the stage, with a round of applause, Priscilla Wakarera, who is the CEO and co-founder of RIA Soil Health Management Limited.
So the question is, how did a soil scientist end up in data science? Simple answer is, I'm lazy. So, okay, I'm also going to struggle with this apparently. Okay, great, not too much struggle. So, RIA is a soil health management company. We empower smallholder farmers with data based off their soil nutritional content and provide them with actionable insights on what type of fertilizers they should use, as well as the type of crops they should grow per region. Now to the technical definition. So RIA leverages IoT sensor technology and machine learning to reduce the duration of time for soil analysis from previously 14 days and down up to just 15 minutes. Like I said, I'm lazy. So we've been able to do this through integration of different models. And essentially what RIA is, we're a hardware software company. We manufacture our own devices that allow us to conduct mobile soil analysis and then provide farmers with recommendations through the embedded software. So the reason that we built this is we found that traditional soil analysis takes a very long time. And I'll give a personal story. When I started, so she said that I'm still a candidate for my master's. I've been doing it for about 5 years. And the interesting thing about it is after collection of soil samples across the country, we needed to analyze that data. The process of soil testing was supposed to take us 14 days, but that process took 3 months. This is when you collect samples from the field, send them to a lab, and you expect a trained lab technician to to process the samples and then derive results. When we got the results, it was just a bunch of numbers. Now, again, I'm lazy. So the bunch of numbers meant that we had to get a data analysis software and analyze over 150 samples from Eastern Kenya, and this process took us an additional month. Now, in agriculture, time matters. If you skip one season, you may, if for example, in our case, we wanted to plant and do the study during the long rain season, so we had to work through a whole other year so we could get into the long rain season again. And the question was, if I was struggling as a soil scientist, was this a struggle that other smallholder farmers also face? We found that a majority of farmers were experiencing the same, and even worse, because when they did get the reports, they didn't really understand them, and they had to pay an agronomist to interpret them. So that's additional costs. And when you consider a smallholder farmer, they don't really have the budget. So with our solution, what we've managed to do is not only cut down the time, but the process in cutting down the time has really just involved, instead of having to send your samples to the lab, we can get the soil tested at your farm. And then also, something else that takes a long duration of time is the interpretation of the soil analysis data and translation into the fertilizer recommendations, which is the actionable insights. So we've built the RIA AgriPad. So it's the IoT soil analysis device. And with this, we are able to provide farmers with 3 crop recommendations. This is based on their specific region. This is also based on the season that they're planting, but it's also primarily based on their current soil data. We provide them insights on the type of fertilizer they should use, the rate and ratio of application, as well as a pH adjustment schedule. Why is this important? You find that many areas in Western Kenya are experiencing soil degradation. We've had cases, for example, in Laikipia County, where farmers have utilized DAP continuously for years, such that it's no longer a recommendation in that area. So what is the global implication of this? If we're degrading our soils at the rate at which we are, which is 21% every single year for farming agroecosystems, then that means with a growing population in Africa, we're going to have already reduced the amount of food that we could get. And that is why people in a continent such as this are affected by a war in a different continent, because that's where you're getting your food. So what we found was, even after we were able to provide farmers with these recommendations, they would still call and ask additional questions. So by a raise of hands, how many of us have worked with smallholder farmers? Oh wow, there's literally 1 per row, yay. So what you find with smallholder farmers is they're used to having direct one-on-one interactions with agronomists. Currently, the ratio of agronomists in the country is 1 agronomist to about 5,000 farmers. So this is highly unsustainable. So what you find in our case is that they would have additional questions, or they have changed their mind from when they initially had their soil tested, and now they want different types of insights. So we would get these farmers calling us on weekends, because smallholder farmers do not have an 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. They would call at 10 p.m., they would make complaints on holidays, and they would like answers on these days. So we built just RIA. RIA is a WhatsApp chatbot that allows farmers to ask questions on soil health, but additionally, it also allows farmers to query their reports. So they do this by either 1, downloading their report that they had their soil analyzed for, and then they could ask specific questions of that report. If they had conducted soil testing before, they can re-upload the report on the WhatsApp chatbot and ask specific questions on the report. So such questions would involve, I'd initially soil tested to plant onions on 1 acre, but now I'd like to plant tomatoes on half an acre. What's the fertilizer recommendation? So this will utilize the data from the initial soil analysis and computer recommendations that this farmer can then use. We also have additional questions that come up in terms of soil health. So for example, you have a liming agent, but what is lime? If you're in construction, it's totally different. If you're in agriculture, it's different. So we've integrated this and then deployed it to the smallholder farmers. So what we've seen with this, we are receiving less calls from farmers. We're recording higher customer satisfaction. But also, we had tailored this specifically for smallholder farmers, but we've realized that it's actually being utilized more by agronomists that work directly with the farmers in the field. So for 2025, we are currently in development of a computer vision software that will allow farmers to then upload pictures of crops from their farms, and we could help identify specific sets of nutritional deficiencies and then provide a recommendation on the type of soil test they should use, or generally what potentially the nutritional deficiency in this case is. So this is just the solution we're working on. So people said people in agriculture are all friends. So some of our friends are also working on other solutions that we think are interesting and also directly tie into our current solution. And part of this is pest and disease detection. So we have a company called Deepleaf, based out of Morocco. They've currently built a system that allows you to identify pests and diseases in tomatoes. They currently have about 200 pests and diseases that are easily identifiable in under a minute by running a robot through your farm or greenhouse setting. Why this is important for us in soil health? You find that there's a linkage, there's similarity in symptoms between nutritional deficiencies and pests and diseases in plants. And if you're able to distinguish between the two, providing a recommendation on what the next step for farmers is better. And what this also does, it eliminates the need to have agronomists on the farm. So others that I'll just mention include the crop health monitoring systems, as well as supply chain optimization. So this is growing in agriculture as well, although we've seen that it does really well for other value chains. So what are the classic do's and don'ts? And is this integration really the solution? So I'll go through just about 3. When you're serving smallholder farmers, they are really interesting demographic. Their literacy levels are low, their ability to pay is low, but the impact of their actions is really high. So that's why they're just as important. And what you find is, when you look at a farmer, for example, in Kericho, they don't care about what you're using to solve their problem. All they care about is that their problem is solved. So we gather in rooms such as this, and we talk about all the models we're building and how great it is, and everybody's expounding on this is dangerous and this needs to be done and everything else. But at the end of the day, the farmer doesn't care to find out what's behind the system. All they want is a solution that is so personalized to their problem that they feel that it solves it. So the key word here, or a key statement here, is don't be sexy and just be functional. And what this means is you don't have to be integrating the most trendy models or the most trendy applications into your solution. What you really should be focusing on is what works to solve this problem. And I'll take you through the slides. So on our first picture, that was our first prototype of the RIA AgriPad. It was just a device that could analyze soil data and have a screen. We had agronomists go to the farms, collect the data, note it down in a notebook, and then take it back to our office where an agronomist would then compute the recommendations. In our second picture, we integrated IoT into our devices. Now, we had 2 different types of agronomists, the one in the field and the one in the office, and what we call a wizard AI. So what we would have is someone in the field collecting the data and then sending it to a dashboard, and then we would have an agronomist on standby, waiting for the data to come in, and then they would compute the recommendations and send them back to the farmer. So this process meant that they could receive their results and reports on same day. It was great, it worked, until now you're doing multiple types of farms. So you have someone in Bungoma, you have someone in Taveta, and you have someone in Kiambu and Kajiado, and now the agronomists you need more agronomists computing the recommendations in office, and then at the same time there's delays, and that process would be lengthy. And then we built our current RIA AgriPad. So what this does is it ensures that once someone has collected a soil sample in the field, they'll insert the sensors into the soil, run an analysis, and then send over the data and download a report almost instantaneously. Integrate, don't replace. What this means is coming up with new technologies and trying to serve the local market requires you to integrate what you're building into the current systems that are functional. Again, integrate and don't replace. So the reason for this, and especially in Africa, is because in as much as there's a lot of chaos, there's a system to the madness. And for our case, when you're dealing with smallholder farmers, they're very resistant to change. They're very resistant to tech products that they do not understand. And they only mostly use up services that they can trust. So we have integrated our solutions into agro input shops, agrovets, whereby we train the agro input agronomists on how to utilize the devices and download the recommendations for the farmers. And what this has ensured is, one, the farmer can get soil testing at their local town, but also at the same time, they can get a report and buy the products at the same shop. But also, because the owners of these shops are mostly used for advisory, they have generated trust over time with these particular farmers, meaning that once a report is out, we have higher adoption rates. So our current limitations, and this is very specific to RIA. It's a little difficult to build in the agricultural space because we have limited access to data. A majority of soil data in Africa is not open sourced. That's one. A majority of data in Africa is very disintegrated and is set for specific purposes. So for example, when we needed training data on the soil map in Kenya, we found that the last updated map that was comprehensive, the scale was off. The second thing that we found as well was that in most of these areas, when you actually go through the data, there's a lot of sparsity. So for example, you have data on Kenya, but it's missing about 4 or 5 key agricultural counties. We've also seen that a majority of the research and data that's collected is on a per project basis, either by universities or private organizations that are funded to do so for that specific purpose. And once they publish the papers, they don't publish the data. So currently, we're working with other stakeholders in the current market. So we're working with CALRO, the government entity in agriculture. We're also working with ICRAF that has led land restoration projects in the country for quite a number of years. But we're also working with a company called VADA to create open access of soil data in the region. What this means is, if you're seated in this room and you need soil data for a specific purpose, you would be able to go online and either one, just download it, or two, request for it directly from the person who has it. People complain about paywalls. Paywalls are not as bad as zero access or no data at all. Another issue we've had is now you've built your model, everything is great, you're happy, you've gone out to the farmers, you want them to test your model. But how do you know that the report you generated is actually true? So for us, we've integrated a feedback loop with reinforcement to ensure that we have accurate data. So we've worked with different universities in the country to make sure that the output that we're getting is accurate. Why is this important? If I'm looking for what type of shoes I need to get, and I'm specifically looking for boots, and I get a recommendation for sandals, it's not a big deal. I can be like, okay, that recommender system is a little off, but sandals are cute. But when you're in agriculture and you get the wrong fertilizer recommendation, this has direct environmental implications as well as yield implications for the farmers. So our building process has been long. We started out in November 2022. We're still building. Someone said, I don't know where you're looking for an end date. It doesn't come, but we've gotten here, so that's good. So Juliana also mentioned how high the infrastructure costs are, and these are even worse for startups that are just trying to build and iterate and test continuously without having even gone to market in the first place. And we've been a bit lucky, and the Kenyan market is a little lucky, but I talk to people in other countries that do not get access to credits, but they would like to start building as well. So I do feel like this is something everyone in this room should try and lobby for as well. And to conclude, because I'm sorry, Alfred, I know you said 10 minutes. But to conclude, I do think that there's a lot of importance in terms of integration of AI into agriculture. Why is this important? If we can create a more efficient system, then we would have faster turnaround times. And what that means is we're saving farmers costs. Farmers who can't generally afford the requirements that they have. We also have companies that could run more smoothly and efficiently. And we could solve the biggest problem in agriculture, which is yield production. If we can solve that and we can have environmental conservation, then it just might be 2030 and we've accomplished our goals. So that's it from me. Thank you.
So I'm Ramsey. I'm an AI automation engineer. I build AI agents. One particular insight I got was when we were talking about customer service. So one of the things that's really proliferating right now in the space is like AI receptionists, AI chatbots, AI voice agents and whatnot. But one of the key problems that the previous speaker pointed out was humans they rush through the IVR phase wanting to speak to a human. And kind of like brought this insight to me that touched with what the head of FinTech at Safaricom had spoken about before, about doing things that create jobs. I think I have an intuition now that customer service, even though it might seem obvious on the surface right now that it's a proper use case for AI, might not be overtaken as easily by AI. Simply because even I, looking at myself, if I call, say, a hotel and I want to make a booking, and then I will want to know that I'm not talking to AI, even though it could probably solve all my problems. It's a weird thing. It's just like a general aversion to it. So that's one insight I saw, and it makes me think that to answer the other guy's question about where AI is headed, a lot of the most useful AI applications will be behind the scenes stuff. So you have AI doing your data analysis, you have AI maybe categorizing stuff for you. But customer-facing functions are still going to be dominated by humans. Sort of like what we saw during COVID, you know. What we saw when AI first came out was you see it replacing some of the most skilled labor, but your carpenter, your receptionist, the waiters, there's still AI. We have AI-first restaurants right now, and it's a gimmick, but I still want to go to a place where I'm served by a human being. So that's mine.
How many people here are at C-level in an enterprise or an SME? C-level, COO, CEO. Brilliant. Okay. So this is a quick story. back in 2013, I left Kenya to go to India to study Bachelor of Technology in Engineering. But as soon as I landed in the country, everybody was speaking either in Hindi or Tamil, and very few people spoke to me in English. It was really challenging, and as any Kenyan will do, I decided to drop out of uni and figure out a way for myself. So I went to a city called Bangalore, where I luckily participated in a hackathon, and I was among the winners. And IBM ended up picking me up and putting me in their cloud engineering facility. So in 2014, I started working as a cloud engineer for IBM. We were rolling out a very interesting cloud service called Bluemix. How many people here have used Bluemix? I want to see. Bluemix? So absolutely not. Okay. It was during this time where I interacted with a team building IBM Watson, which was among the first AI research that was being done, particularly on sentimental analysis. So IBM 2014, at that time again, later on, I decided, hey, I see a very interesting opportunity, as any person from Murima will do, and decided to build a startup. And this was a HR tech startup. And what we were doing is, I realized that IBM really struggled finding engineers to adopt cloud service while competing with Azure and AWS then. And so I realized I could actually create a curriculum on IBM Bluemix, deploy it in universities, get a bunch of students learning it, and then IBM will hire them en masse. And that worked like a charm. And so I ended up creating a course for NASA while they were launching their hackathon. I created a course for Microsoft. And then ultimately, someone came to me and said, can I buy your company? And I exited. So I ended up, again, for a 23, 24 years old, I ended up blowing all the money. And between 2014 and 2017, I was a very poor man. So I decided what I'm going to do is become a monk, which means I'm going to live by my means, which means I had nothing to live on. So I moved to Himalayas and tried to become a Baba. And so here it's an event called Kumbh Mela, one of the biggest Indian events. So that is my brief history. Now, fast forward, 2023, I came back home after getting married. I am married with one wife and one dog. And we started building Skiza AI. And one of the things that I had realized, and significantly borrowing from my experience in India, is that Africa is a data dark region. We have so much data, but is inaccessible. Most of it might be living in a piece of paper somewhere, or a computer in someone's office. And if I wanted to access it, I might have to go through a chain reaction to really get a simple piece of information that I needed. And so that was the inception, or rather the inception of Skiza AI. We will come to that. But today, I want to talk about my experience working with C-level executives, trying to sell them an AI product, and their response. But also on top of that, selling an AI solution to data scientists who constantly ask me, are you here to take away my job? And therefore, the title of my conversation, which I'm going to try to keep it very brief, is Frost and Defrost. Now, let's go there. Now, the first CEO I'm going to pick up here, I'm going to use someone, Mbogwa, is going to be the example. So Mbogwa runs a retail business. What Mbogwa does is currently he has, let's say, 13 chains across Kenya. And the way he stocks his business is through intuition. A wholesaler will come to him and say, hey, Mbogwa, can you, this week, I'm running a big discount, and I'm going to give you 200 bags for 50% less. And so Mbogwa decides to buy everything. Now, the next thing that will happen to Mbogwa is that as soon as he stocks them, Mandamano happens. And so all the stock in his business is going to be redundant. No one is going to buy, and potentially, at the end of the day, most of it is going to expire. So Mbogwa ends up at a very, very significant loss. Mbogwa has no data to work with. He has no way to predict what is going to happen in the market. And so for him is purely intuition. Now, the next CEO that I work with most of the time, and we're going to come back to this. Brilliant. Now, the next customer profile that I'm going to build for you is who I call the Glacier Commander. Now, the next Glacier Commander is my friend Kevin Otiende. Now, Kevin runs a big enterprise as well, a retail enterprise, has 135 chains running across Kenya. Now, what Kevin does is he has built an in-house data team. Now, his data team will always come to him every morning with a report that says, currently, we are moving about $2 million in sales every month. On top of that, the best performing product currently is Maziwa ya Nyayo. And ultimately, what we need to do next is open a new chain somewhere at Junction Mall. But the challenge that Kevin Otiende has is in case he has a new question. For instance, if he comes to his engineering team or data team and asks, what can you predict what is going to happen 6 months from now? His data team will go back and now start juggling with data from all the different ERP systems that Kevin has. Try to download that in Excel format and throw it in Power BI. And then crunch the data, clean it, build up an ETL pipeline. And by the time that report is getting to Kevin Otiende, it is already 3 months or 4 months late. And so Kevin is playing the catch-up game. He's barely 2 months to making very critical decision, but also competing in a very cutthroat market. Now, the last one, now before we go to the meat, the last one is who I call the Ice Conqueror. Now, the Ice Conqueror, I'm going to pick up a lady. What's your name again? Ria? Priscilla. I'm going to pick up Priscilla. Now, Priscilla is a champion. Priscilla has built a crazy data team. Again, a similar profile as Kevin Otiende. Priscilla is running 135 retail chains across Kenya. Priscilla has a data team, but also on top of that, her team is using AI. Now, I want us to see the difference. One of the things that Priscilla's team will do is they will build a solution that integrates to all their existing data sources. The next thing that her engineering team will do is that they're going to build an ETL pipeline that learns and understands all the data processes and the data workflows, and ultimately starts generating insights in real time for Priscilla. So if Priscilla wants to know what will be the price of maize 2 months from now or 6 months from now, she doesn't have to go back to ask her team to create a report, because Priscilla has a solution that is able to do that entire prediction. Until here, I want to ask a question. With these 3 profiles, I want to know who thinks that they fit in the first CEO profile. First CEO profile, the icebound nomad. Who fits there? Okay, so everybody in this room has a data team. Is that so? All right, very good. We're doing great. Now, who fits in the second profile? The Glacier Commander. You have a data team. They're working perfectly in infrastructure such as Power BI or anything of that sort. All right, we have one. Anyone else? There, brilliant. And then, so this is really interesting. Who fits in the Ice Commander, the Ice Conqueror? Who has a data team and has an AI infrastructure for their data currently? So we have 1, 2. My question is, what about the rest of you? Where is between? You don't have AI. You have the team, but is the team giving you insights? Brilliant. So that one is in between. They have existing machine learning models, but still advancing. What about the rest of you guys? Where are you? Anyone? Okay. So now, when I was coming here today, when I was building these 3 profiles, one of the things that I was personally struggling with is the understanding of what direction we are taking in the AI space. Now, we saw DeepSeek release their R1 model recently with a $6 million funding. And yet, ChatGPT built their entire model from 2015 with a $6.6 billion in funding. So the key question is, who is doing it right, who is telling the truth, and who is not? But ultimately, who am I to come here and stand in front of you and predict what is the future of AI? The truth is, I am nobody. But I'm going to tell you what we are currently doing. And from there, then we can be able to decide together the direction forward. I believe I have 4 minutes left for my talk. Now, when we started building Skiza AI, the first things that we realized is, as a data engineering team, we need to figure out how to use existing LLM models without the heavy cost. Now, for instance, currently, if you take 10 GB of data, or just 1 GB of data, and throw it to ChatGPT to analyze it for you, the amount of cost that you receive per token is absolutely insane. And so that was not a solution. Now, the second problem that we had is that most of the data, as one of the speakers initially mentioned, is currently very much unstructured. And so how do you build and train a model to understand or generate unique ETL solution for every customer that comes on board? Again, that was a bigger problem. And so the only solution that we came up with as a team, is building a multi-agent architecture ecosystem. For the engineering team, has anyone worked on a multi-agent architecture ecosystem here? Brilliant. 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to delve into the definition of these things, but ultimately I'll give you a quick example of how this works. For instance, you're a client, and when I say client, you're the end user of a product, and you really want to generate a quick insight. So think of it as a ChatGPT for data analytics. You go on the product and ask the first question: how much sales did we do today compared to last week? Now, the first thing that will happen is you'll have the first agent that picks the query. Now, you'll have another agent that takes that query and figures the question that you're sending to the data, or to your data schema, which tables are we going to pick to analyze that. And the third agent takes the schema with a query and generates an SQL code or a Python, currently for us, it's Python pandas code that queries your database. And ultimately, the last agent is the one that sends the output to your client, or ultimately, when I say client, again, I mean for you to see it. And so what this ecosystem does, or what this architecture does, it reduces your AI cost by almost 90%. So for our existing customers that we are serving currently, a good example is Food for Education. They have over 500,000 learners that they feed every day, and they want to track that data. We're able to reduce their cost significantly. And when I say significantly, your AI cost could initially be about $10,000 a month, and we are able to do that by $700 a month. So I'm going to take a quick pause because I know we have a panel coming up. I'm excited to hear about the rest of the things and network with you. Thank you so much for being here. Last but not least, if you want to know more about Skiza and you want to connect, you can scan that QR code, and I'll be happy to buy you a cup of coffee. I'm open for partnerships. We're happy to build a data science team for you if you prefer that. And we're happy to train our model with your data. Thank you very much.
Wonderful presentation. Now, at this juncture, we will transition to our first panel discussion of the day. And may I please ask, okay, good. We are now further exploring real-world AI applications and use cases. And may I please ask to join us on the stage, even as we set it up, Priscilla, Oscar, and Goge. And this session will be moderated by Mbogwa, Mbogwa Jehia brings a wealth of experience of over 2 decades in the tech industry. And currently, he is a venture builder at Grupo Potent, actively identifying opportunities across mobility, telecoms, payments, media, advertising, digital distribution, and energy.
Hamjambo. Cognizant of time, I had a whole slew of questions planned for these guys. But even just listening to the Skiza AI proposition, there are probably a lot more questions that would be coming from you. So what I will do is I'll just do the first round of questions to our esteemed panel, and then literally open up the floor so we could ask some tougher questions, probably. Sitting in the audience, the first question for me was, these farmers, like you rightfully noted, they have varying degrees of education. One, how do you communicate the value of technology to them? And most critically, how do you then get to have them pay for your services, if at all? Because we said we're not building things for fun, we're not hobbyists, we're actually scratching a real itch. So for me, the question was, how do you communicate the value of technology? And then how do you also get to have them pay if they're the ones who are paying?
Okay, I think the answer to that question is the same. So farmers respond to output. In terms of communicating the value of the actual product, what they care about is, do I actually get a faster output? So for example, if it's generally taking them, I think, just to summarize it, it's convenience. If it's taking them 2 weeks to get a report and they can get the report instantaneously, then that shows value. And most farmers are willing to trust something that's valuable to them. We've also seen output in terms of increase of yield and a savings in inputs. So these are 2 metrics that we track that are a little bit tricky to track, especially in agriculture, because you have so many other moving parts that relate to the input cost as well as the output yield. So what we've done is we've set up different types of demo farms where we work with different farmers in the areas. And then in these farms, we conduct farmer trainings, showing farmers if everything is held constant and you use this particular intervention, you will see an increase in yield. So farmer education for us is paramount in terms of showing them the value, but also the product actually providing convenience. And then also something else that I mentioned is utilizing frameworks that are already there, that they're already familiar with. So for example, working with an agrovet as opposed to sending a RIA agent directly to them.
Still haven't answered my money question. I mean, if you're training farmers, who's paying for the haul? Who's paying for your team to be on the ground? Are you subsidizing the farmers? Are you giving them a cup of tea? So what's the model behind your vision for your platform?
So in terms of paying, so the farmers pay directly for the soil testing services, and we charge on a per sample basis for soil analysis. And in getting them to actually pay, it's just essentially computing what their savings in inputs is. So for example, if a farmer for an acre was utilizing 2 bags, but in reality what they needed was 1.5 bags, then it means that they've actually saved money in the purchase costs. So they would then have reserve money to conduct soil testing in that case. So what we've really emphasized on is, again, showing them the value and then how they're able to save money then translates into them being more willing to pay. So we do charge farmers directly. So when we started out in Rwanda, and we ran a study. We started our first pilot in Rwanda. And the reason we decided to set up here first is because farmers were really for the idea of soil analysis. They loved the tech. But because of the different, I think, cultural framework between Kenyan farming systems and the Rwandan farming systems, the farmers in Rwanda at that point, but this was 2022, so this could have changed, were not willing to pay because they're so incentivized by non-governmental organization and government. They would expect it to be for free, but then when you consider the costs of development, then it couldn't have been something that we would have set up with.
Excellent. Guys, have you understood how she makes money? Have you understood how she makes money? You're still trying to figure it out? I mean, that's a point of conversation that we could build on, because I do find that, like we said, they are sometimes cash strapped, so that's a challenge in how to get them to pay for technology. I'll jump over to you, Oscar. I knew it's great that we just missed that session because of time, and we're looking at something called show, not tell. And you asked the room a question, and you said, how many people here run a call center? And my hypothesis is, I look back and I didn't see too many hands, and I posture it's because call center infrastructure is costly. Not many people, if you're running an Instagram shop or WhatsApp shop, you probably don't run a call center. So my question to you is, how do we then get the amazing technologies that you guys are building and pushing out to be democratized a bit better so that SMEs can actually have it at the palm of their hands as opposed to thinking of setting up comprehensive, IVR infrastructure?
First of all, I think when you're building a business, we're not Bill and Melinda Gates, I think, Foundation. So the first priority is to monetize and then make return on your investment. So after that, that's when we will figure out how do we scale. I think the answer you are looking at, how do we scale it to everybody and SMBs? That it's part of our product roadmap, but I wouldn't say it's in the immediate term, because I think, as you know, excuse me, building costs and building takes time.
Yes.
Hopefully, in the near future, once we reach our product roadmap, our aim is to even provide this to, say, people like transcribers, translators, so that they can leverage it to do, their daily jobs. But it's a bit in the distance. So it's very adaptable. There are a couple of other use cases I think we are working on that are outside the customer engagement. I don't want to talk about them because they're still in the different stages. But the whole idea is, as long as you have data that is in a media stage, media data, we'll be able to work on it and give you all those insights and the sentiments you're looking for.
Excellent. And maybe now, Ngoge, we could build on that, because you put out a number and you say, for example, your AI cost will be coming to like $10,000. I'm like, what? Are we there already? What is the sort of infrastructure cost gap that we are looking at just for, call them simple deployments? Because you go out there, you'll see, hey, if I get onto ChatGPT Pro, I'm on $20. If I go to Perplexity AI, it's $50. But the numbers you're talking about powering some of the back-end things that we're having conversations around sound pretty hefty. What's a true lay of the land when it comes to actual cost when doing something that is enterprisey?
That purely relies on the few factors. One is the size of the data that you're handling as a business. You find that some enterprises, have already built a data lake or data warehouse with over 500 GB of data. And so if the CEO comes and say, I would like to see the performance trends over the past 11 years, it means you're handling the entire data set. Now that's a crazy amount if, for instance, if you're working on a ChatGPT wrapper or any form of wrapper, which means you're sending the data directly to the LLMs. Now that can be really crazy in terms of costs. And if that you're talking to almost up of $20,000, $30,000 if you're sending your data directly to LLMs. But that is where now engineers come on board and start innovating around it. What can be the different solutions that we can do about that? And so talking directly, pointing directly to what we've done at Skiza is we're still leveraging the LLMs, but not sending the data to the LLMs. And by using LLMs to write code, to query the data, the number or the size of the tokens that we're dealing with is significantly smaller. And so that's how we're able to bypass some of these challenges. So you can take it from $20,000 to $200.
Excellent. You know, in AI speak, when you're speaking to your board and you start talking about tokens, you know our major token provider here is Kenya Power. So you have to be very careful about how you break them in when talking about tokens. And Silo Nyongoge, you know, you asked a question and I wasn't quite able to see the response. But from your interactions, what is the spread in terms of the personas of the CEOs that you mentioned? What is the true spread? There was only one hand that came here. Someone said, we are ready, just on, maybe not on the tooling layer. But what's the spread of that? Are we still, and Oscar, you said we talk a big game. But, you know, he asked a question, how many of us are the commander? What was the last one? How many of us feel we are ICE commanders? And I don't think many hands went up. What's your pulse on where we are truly at as a country and as a region when looking at AI implementations?
Ultimately, when you sit with the C-level, the only thing that matters is how much money are we going to bring on board if we integrate your system. And so it's all about increasing revenue and operational efficiency. That's where it all boils down to that. However, you find that most CEOs and business leaders are not technical, and therefore they rely purely on the advice of their data team or their IT manager. Now, most of the infrastructures currently are still a bit, we're talking, you find that almost 80% of the businesses that we deal with are running on Microsoft 365 Dynamics. Now, that's like seriously in the 90s, if we're talking about technology. And so it's a bit precarious when we're talking about data analytics and real-time insights generation. But when you roll down the curtains to the SMEs and the startup, you find that they're very forward-thinking. The founders themselves have a certain layer of technical expertise or technical know-how in which they are able to make decisions faster and deploy AI solutions in their business. So for them, it is, can I turn over really quick? So there's a bit of a disparity in terms, based on the size of the business.
Oh, fantastic. I'll scoot over to you, Priscilla. We said, I'm curious about how you train your models. You mentioned partnership with a North African-based entity. I can't remember their name, but are you training any of your data locally? You know, you said you're moving into the space where I can take the picture of my banana plant, and then you'll tell me this one has the equivalent of plant kwashiorkor. So have you trained your models locally, or are you doing that, or are you relying solely on partners like from other parts of the world?
So we've trained our models locally. We've had to collect most of the data ourselves as well, which would explain the long development time. We have worked with partners in terms of just efficiency and reducing that development time as well.
What's the size, like, give us an idea of how you actually collect that data. Like, how does that process start? Kenya we've got different regions, different things do well in different spaces. So are you developing first, say, competency in tomatoes, really max that out? And are you collecting, is it 1,000 samples?
Yeah, so we've worked with Calro that has been collecting data for quite a number of years.
Okay.
We've also leveraged on some of the land restoration data that has been collected by ICRAF. But primarily, a majority of our data has come directly from different researchers that have published individual papers in different regions. So when we started out with our first data sets, we only did a single county. So we only started out with data from Kiambu County because this was data that we could easily access. And then we've now started scaling this depending on the different areas. And we've done that so much that now we're collecting data in 3 regions in Tanzania as well. So this is just by leveraging different types of primary sources. So the reason that we've actually partnered with VADA in this case is because we've realized that there's a majority of companies whose greatest limitation is access to training data. And this also affects the quality of the output that we get. So what maybe potentially I didn't mention was when we built our first model for our recommendation system, we had limited data sets. So we're currently in the second version, but for our first model, we literally could not do more than 15 crops. We were able to scale the crops from 15 to 22. We're currently at 64. By the end of this quarter, we should have about 150 crops. So as you can see, it's just a continuous process of just gathering specific types of data. So we also collect different types of fertilizer data as well. So working with those types of companies directly and field trial data.
Excellent. So the big question for me is, you said there's a dearth of this data. Are you open sourcing yours?
So, well, we hope so.
Hope so.
We hope so. We hope ultimately it could be something that could be achievable. My overall vision is really around ensuring that we can have sustainable food production, that we can have environmental conservation. If all the data that RIA collects over the next few years could have an impact on this, then I really, really hope that we can.
Excellent. Let's open this up to the floor. Do we have any takers, any questions for the esteemed panel? Yes, we do have a question here. That's one question. Second question, maybe we'll take a third, and then third will be at the front here. Four questions. I hope the team has helped me to see all those hands, and then the good thing is that we have networking after this, so probably you could continue with, you could reach out to any of the panelists after that. So, name, organization.
Yes, and please, because of time, be very concise with your question.
Gotcha.
And 1 minute max, nothing more than that. We'll cover the rest during the networking. Thank you.
Thank you for the marching orders. My name is Dr. Ken Muthoka, CEO KPN Teleradiology. I do have 2 questions, one to Priscilla. Relating to the integration with WhatsApp, I know it helps to increase access. I'm just a little concerned about the cost implications. And I'm saying this because I know for a previous program for HIV, we've not been able to reach more than 10% of the people because of cost association with WhatsApp. And then my next question is to Gugi. I'm not exactly sure the ecosystem, maybe a bit more details on this, on the components of the ecosystem that you provide, and whether you have worked with any health tech. And maybe you could touch on maybe IP concerns, if you co-create, whether you provide TA or the type of support or engagements that you do have. Thanks.
Great. I think we could go quick fire on those.
So the cost implications are something to really think about. The reason that we selected using WhatsApp is that we found a majority of the farmers that we serve have direct access to WhatsApp, either through a very simplified smartphone or maybe an agronomist with a more sophisticated one. And then also the ease of use of the interface. And also for us, it created a notion where smallholder farmers do not download apps. So they will not add an additional app to their phone, and if they do download it, they will not open it. But the one thing that they open most of the time is their WhatsApp to chat with people. So it also personalizes the experience for them in that it feels as if they're speaking to an agent who is a human person, in this case for them, and it allows them to be very specific with the question. So in terms of costs and how we've been able to work around this for us is because of the methodology that we use for soil analysis, and generation of the report, we are able to reduce the actual cost of soil testing because we have fewer moving parts and we use dry chemistry. So we are able to transfer the costs of the WhatsApp chatbot directly to the cost of the soil testing. That's why a majority of the farmers automatically get access to the chatbot on conducting a soil test.
Great. So maybe some additional input is that there are new technologies emerging, not quite new. There's something called RCS, Rich Communication Service, works off the super app of the world, which is SMS. Most telcos are moving onto that, and there are models that you could use where you could get sponsored data to make sure that maybe your agent, your RCS agent, is a lot more affordable. And we know that we're an Android-first country or region, so that should help reduce those costs because they can get pretty expensive. Next questions, yours.
Sure. I would definitely love to touch on the WhatsApp. You can actually bypass WhatsApp cost zero. And there's a backdoor using WhatsApp web APIs. So if you have a dev team in-house, please go research that. It's a very interesting way of doing it. Your question regarding what we're doing at Skiza, what our product does, is in an instance where you're a business and you have a lot of data sitting in your data lake. And generally, the bigger challenge that we see with bigger enterprises is marketing team is not talking to sales, or sales is not talking to the account data is not talking to HR, and there is so much back and forth when it comes to report generation. What we do is we build a product that sits on top of your data. And so think of it as ChatGPT for data analytics. So if you wanted to generate any insights or build any dashboards, inside dashboards for your team, you can just be able to do it using plain English command. That's it.
Excellent. Second question, please.
Hello. Question for the same people. I'm Joshua. I'm Joshua Muhanga, and I work as data scientist, and currently I'm co-founding Atom AI, which is specializing in annotating and pre-processing data for AI systems, specifically with African context. So when Priscilla talks about the frustration of collecting data for their system, we completely understand that because that's the problem we are trying to solve with Atom AI. A question for Priscilla, though, is like, with open sourcing the data that you already have available, we practically understand that you spend money to collect it and to get it ready. So giving it out like that would not make sense in business-wise. And also practically give your trade secret somehow. So would you be open to partnering with a company, for example, like Atom AI, to anonymize the data and then make it out to the market without the sensitive information? And another question is for Skiza. You say you generate codes for the companies instead of running the entire data lake, right? My question is, this code still has to run somewhere, still has to be processed, right, to generate the insight. Then what is the compute? Who provides the compute to run this code after generating it? Is it the company or you have the compute power? Thank you.
Great, Priscilla.
Yeah, so we already anonymize our data, but it would be interesting to have a conversation. Most of the data we're referring to, okay, so we're thinking about open access as well as open sourcing. So when we're thinking of data, we're looking at environmental data from our perspective, which is what we feel would be very crucial for most systems as well. So that's the data that we collect that we feel would be most crucial.
All right, my friend. So sometimes I think there is an overly, there's this idea about running AI and LLM models, and we make it look so big. Well, realistically, the actual costs are so minimal. If you're a startup founder, you should be in a position to take advantage of the credits provided by AWS, Google Cloud Services, and use their compute services for these kind of things. And in fact, currently, Google is rolling out almost $200,000 to $300,000 in credits for developers. That's what we take advantage of, right? Our current compute or our current cloud cost run between $800 to $900, and currently we are handling over 5 terabytes of data. So it purely depends on, one, the way you've built your product architecture, that is significantly the key determinant of your cost. But again, let's catch up over coffee or a drink and bust this up.
Great. I want to kind of like take an executive decision here just because of time, very cognizant of having us wrap up on time. For the pending questions, I'd love to ask you to reach out to the panelists directly after the session and to help me appreciate them for the insights that they've shared from their decks to this time. So help me appreciate them with a round of applause, please. It's probably not going to be possible to unpack all those questions, even the ones that I had prepared for them. So, ladies, gentlemen, I thank you for your time. And yeah, let's like we said, it's driving this transformation and making it actually make sense. We're not building MV2s anymore. Asanteni.
Please remember to tag us across all platforms as well: Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, at AI Kenya, and we'll be sure to repost these conversations. We've had a good morning so far. Let's keep going. And in this next session, we will be hearing about AI infrastructure. Are you guys ready for us to kickstart our second session of the day? You don't sound excited, honestly. That was not a promising yes. Okay. Are you excited for us to start our second session of the day? Nice. So our next speaker is a cloud infrastructure engineer with close to a decade's worth of experience working with cloud technologies. He is currently serving as a chief technology officer at Angani, which is a leading local cloud provider in the region. When he is not busy tinkering with cloud, he can be found immersing himself in video games. Sounds interesting, huh? Please, with a round of applause, help me welcome Denson Ngumo to the stage.
Yes, so good morning once again. I think the exercise we just had before reminded me of something really funny. I don't know how many of you have launched a website and asked you prove that you're human by clicking on some capture images, then you fail. Then you ask yourself, am I really human? So what is human? I mean, that's a discussion for another day, right? Yes. So as she said, my name is Denson Ngumo. I'm currently the CTO of Angani, and as she said, we offer local cloud services in the region. What that means is we are able to offer local hosting in terms of virtual servers, dedicated servers. We're also able to assist companies with their DR solutions, with backup solutions. And in addition to that, we're also able to offer Cloud PBX, which is a voice service system that we offer. In the earlier sessions, I think I had Oscar talk about many of you who still use Excel sheets for their data. And for those people, I say, come to Angani. We have an analytics department who will help you with that. So you don't need to struggle with Excel sheets anymore to get valuable insights from that, right? So fitting with the event we're in, since it's an AI event, I decided to have an AI profile of myself in a dystopian cyberpunk universe. And I think I look pretty good, right? When in my time in Angani, she said, I assist companies move their resources to the cloud, that is in their cloud transformation journey. And I'm honored to work with a fantastic young team full of very skilled engineers who assist companies on a day-to-day basis with the various problems they have. And when I'm not doing that, you'll find me in various technical forums, such as the AI Kenya group, various cybersecurity events, immersing myself in what's going on when it comes to technology and what that entails. When I'm not doing that, I'm spending time with my family, with my wife and my son. My wife was here today, and I'm always thankful for their support. When I'm not with them, as she said, I'm an avid player of video games. Why? Because I like testing myself against the AI in those systems and seeing how well I can perform versus those systems, right? So for today, I will be talking or going through AI infrastructure in this region, more specifically Kenya. So we usually get a lot of questions in regards of Are we ready in terms of infrastructure? What does AI infrastructure entail and cover? What does that mean? So I'm hoping by the end of this session, many of you will have the answers to that question in terms of the confidence in seeing where do we stand as a region, as a country in terms of infrastructure. I'll try to be as brief as possible because of time, but basically I'll be covering what is AI infrastructure, what is the current state and where do we stand in that aspect, what role does local cloud have to play in this scene, in this space, what are some example tools that we can actually get our hands on and actually deploy and use and test and see how it works, and some case studies based on things we're doing at Angani and products we're serving at Angani, right? So what is AI infrastructure? In a nutshell, AI infrastructure covers the hardware, software, and the tools that are involved in developing artificial intelligence systems. And most of us, when you're talking about AI infrastructure, we're usually talking about the aspect of training data models, right? The various LLMs and other such models that we use on a day-to-day basis or have taken the internet by storm. And in addition to that, there are other aspects as well. For example, we have AI inferencing, which I don't hear many people talk about when it comes to AI infrastructure. So most of us usually talk about training. And why I'm choosing to highlight this is because I've had sentiments from people where they're afraid to get into AI because they've read online or somewhere in terms of the high requirements needed to train data. And that is not the only aspect when it comes to AI. So I'm here to talk about that and just shed light in terms of you don't need to actually train any data yourself to use AI or to be involved in this space to solve a problem or to create solutions for your customers. So this is just a quick summary in terms of the differences between AI infrastructure in terms of training and inferencing. So you'll find that when it comes to training models, this is where a bulk of the heavy processing is required because you're actually training these models using large data sets. And for those who don't know, you can actually train train models using smaller data sets. So this can be a data set from your local organization. You don't need to train your model using the data from the internet. Your model can be based off your own organization's data, and you can create a model based on that, right? Well, inferencing, you don't require as much resources because inferencing is actually using or connecting to the model that has already been trained to come up with an insight, a prediction, or an answer to a question you've given it. And to just summarize this list, the difference between the two would be with the data training, you're able to feed a model many photos of cats, and it's able to tell you what a cat is. With inferencing, you're able to give that model that you trained to learn about cats a photo of your own cat, and it's able to tell you this is a photo of your cat and not a dog. So just to summarize this, that's one of the key differences. When it comes to hardware, training can take a lot of resources, but does it? I think with the recent revelations when it comes to deep learning, that has shaken up that whole statement in terms of how much resources do we actually need to train these models. That's, I think, a longer and a more interesting conversation to have in terms of what actually do we need in terms of resources to train these models. Is it what is actually being told to us in terms of the press and the research findings, or do we actually need to optimize the tools we're using to reduce the number of resources that we need? We have inferencing which runs on edge devices, and an edge device can be your phone, it can be a camera, it can be an IoT device running in an industry. So these devices are not compute-heavy devices and that require a lot of resources. So when it comes to components or key components when it comes to AI infrastructure, we're talking about compute resources. Compute resources refers to the actual dedicated servers or the servers involved in training these models. And you're looking at aspects such as the GPUs. So GPUs are heavily used when it comes to training, and it's because of the ability to parallel process data. We have TPUs, which was custom developed by Google to process tensor units. We're talking about CPUs, which are not as efficient at processing as GPUs, but can still get the job done not as efficiently, but can still get the job done. We're talking about networking. When you're connecting your AI system to a data set, you need high bandwidth to connect these two systems because you're supposed to be able to process and reduce the latency between the two. So networking is heavily involved in that. When you're talking about edge devices, these are the devices which would sit with you as an end user or with a target demographic and would be feeding back to your AI system. So networking, fast internet access is some of the aspects which are involved when it comes to this AI infrastructure. We're talking about storage. So when it comes to storage, you're talking about high speed and fast storage. Examples of this would be NVMe storage, SSD storage. So when you're processing large amounts of data, high or fast access to data is very important and it's imperative to your system performing well. And that's what we mean by storage systems. When we're talking about data infrastructure, here we are referring to the various pipelines where you're actually able to take the data from the source or from the raw format and transform it into a model that the AI system can actually understand and process. AI development platforms. Here we are referring to the various frameworks, software tools, and libraries that are actually used to develop the AI programs, the AI systems, and that whole ecosystem. We have energy and cooling. When you're using high compute resources, those systems will require a lot of power to actually efficiently process data. And in consuming that power, they also produce heat, meaning you need to be able to cool those systems efficiently. And this is one of the areas that you'll find that there's a lot of interest in terms of what is our source of energy, in terms of is it renewable, how much can we produce. And I think in a following slide, they'll actually show you an interesting graph in terms of the data centers around the world and how much power each data center in a city consumes. And you'll see some interesting graphs. We're talking about cloud and edge computing. So for those of you who are hosting systems or applications, those will be running from a cloud provider of some sort. So that is cloud computing in a nutshell. When you're talking about security and compliance, you need to be able to protect that data. You need to be able to secure your data. This can be through encryption in transit, encryption at rest, and the data policies around this as well. Especially in this age of data compliance and data privacy, we need to be able to have systems that are secure. We need to be able to have systems which can be tampered, and we need to be able to, hand in hand with monitoring, see how these systems perform, see where this data is coming from, who has access to this data at any given point in time, and how accurate is this data. So this is just a map that I got, which I found very interesting. So this map shows power utilization based off different data centers around the world. And you can see from the city of Northern Virginia, that's one city using over 2 gigawatts of power in the data centers in that region. And you can see some cities, some continents like Africa, the only region which we have a significant power draw is in Johannesburg, right? So there's a big gap in terms of how much data we're actually using, and there's a big potential as well, right, to fill that map in terms of what we can actually do with data. So I found this very interesting to just see where most of our data centers are actually located or centralized, and it actually even tells a story about where is your data being processed, right? If there's no power draw in your region, is your data actually being processed in your region? So when you're talking about conversations such as data localization, data sovereignty, ways this map in itself tells a story about where your data actually resides. So I want to talk about where we stand as a country in terms of the infrastructure developments we've made and what that means to us in this room. So Kenya is very well positioned in terms of the number of data centers in the region. You'll find that in East Africa, we have the most number of data centers. And they're located in Nairobi, in Mombasa. So when it comes to data center availability, local data center availability, we're very well positioned from that aspect to be able to roll out anything we need in the data center aspect, right? When you're talking about subsea cables, you'll find that Kenya has quite a number of subsea cables landing on our coast. Some countries in Africa can't say the same. We have around 6 cables right now landing on our coast, and this gives us connectivity to other regions around the world. And this is a very big milestone when it comes to connectivity. And when we're talking about infrastructure and data availability, when we're connecting to systems across the world, it is through these subsea cables that we're able to reach them. And we have a new cable also coming, I believe sometime this year, funded by Google under the name the Moja Project. And this will be a cable landing from the Kenyan coast, going all the way to Uganda, to Rwanda, up to Cape Town. And this shows us that there's investments in this region. And the reason there's investments in this region is because they've seen the potential in this region, right? We also have, under the support of the government and private sector collaboration, over 9,000 kilometers of fiber rolled out in this region. So the government has really done a lot when it comes to fiber rollout, connecting the different or the various counties in our region. And a lot more can still be done, but it is commendable in terms of the amount of kilometers we already laid out at this point in time in terms of connectivity, because it is through this infrastructure that we'll be able to reach the end users that we're aiming to target. We're talking about power consumption and power production. When it comes to Kenya, a majority of the power we produce is coming from either geothermal sources and hydroelectric power. That means majority of our power is from renewable energy. And this is a very big draw to foreign investors, because when you're building a data center, if you're building in a data center in a region that is using predominantly renewable energy, that is a big plus to these companies. So that means there's a big potential in terms of investment in our region because of the kind of power we produce. We also have local cloud companies in the region. So a lot of people talk about the lack of local cloud availability zones, but that is not actually true. We are here, and we are here to serve and be able to assist companies when it comes to local hosting. And we work hand in hand with different ISPs and telcos to provide connectivity to different businesses. And this is just to say that the capability or the infrastructure is actually there, and we're able to provide various services and various capacities to you as businesses and as innovators, right? So what is the role that we play as a local cloud provider when it comes to the building of AI infrastructure? So as Angani, what do? We do what we do best, and that is investing in building cloud in Africa for Africa. So just to quickly go through this, we've invested heavily in terms of making our cloud cost efficient to you. And this is by keeping our billing, flat rate billing. As a customer, you're able to get on board our cloud and be able to know that in a month-to-month basis, your bill won't change. So we've had conversations about scale and being able to scale as a business, because that is very important to you. So if you're coming on board a local cloud provider, you should be able to be supported in that aspect as well. So we support businesses in that aspect, in the sense that if you're coming on board, you're able to scale as your users grow as well. We won't bill you in terms of your traffic usage as you grow. So you'll have a fixed rate billing, which is a plus to many organizations. We've invested in networking. We're able to have high bandwidth availability to different organizations, to different businesses. We've invested a lot in security, whereby you're able to secure your data warehouses. We've invested in fast storage, where we're able to offer the different companies SSD storage. And right now we have terabytes of data available for people to use and consume. So that is just some of the aspects that we've really invested in terms of being a local provider for many of you. And I think one of the questions to the previous panel was on costs when it comes to where they are hosting their infrastructure. And we're here to say Angani is here, we are local, and we're able to work hand in hand with you in whatever you need. So this was just a quick briefing in terms of models that for many of you who have data center teams, data researchers, that All these tools are actually free and open for you to use. I know someone would be asked, why isn't deep learning here? And the simple answer to that is, by the time I was writing this slide, I didn't know anything about deep learning. So that just is also a testament to how fast this technology is growing and how quickly it's changing. And it's also to tell the business owners or the investors or the founders and the innovators, start now, don't wait. The technology is growing and it's changing. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Now, all of us are, going through this ride as together, right, as it changes. So be open to start. Just have the customer or the problem first. That is all that matters. So just to quickly go through, in terms of Angani, what are some use cases in terms of AI that we offer to people? And the first that I'd like to go through is our AI CCTV analysis product. We have 2 major retail customers who I won't mention in this session, who have actually rolled out this for their retail outlets. And what this system does is, or what their need was, to be able to count in a particular day how many customers come into the retail outlets, how many staff members come into the retail outlets, and to differentiate between the two. So our tool uses neural networks to be able to count how many customers enter to the retail shops and to be able to identify how many number of customers are in their shop at any particular point in time on an hour-to-hour basis or on a day-to-day basis. And they're able to derive insights such as which is the peak hour in a day that customers come. And they're able to see, okay, in this period, we should have an extra member on shift. And in this period, we have very few customers, so we might reduce the number of people on shift. We also have our media streaming platform, whereby we were able to use ChatGPT to refactor our code. And last year, we were able to have 2 successful events. The first being the Somali Night in 2024, and the crossover event in December, or 31st of December. So all these events were hosted on our platform in collaboration with Safaricom, and they were able to stream across the region, and they are all successful events, and they're all running on Angani Cloud. So I think I will close there because of the sake of time, and I hope the talk was really insightful in terms of we are ready, we have the infrastructure. What we need to actually discuss is what do we need to do to get started. Infrastructure can no longer be an excuse in terms of why are we not using AI. Thank you.
The beauty of coming for these things is you get to connect the dots. So earlier I asked Oscar why he's not attending to SMEs, and then he had that moment there. I've got a solution. These guys are doing a cloud PBX that probably hundreds of SMEs are on. I think if you plug in that API, suddenly you can then open up access to the infra that you've built, and then you can figure out pricing, and you can talk cloud to cloud. Again, we talk about viable things, vitu kwa ground. I think I like that retail reference. Nowadays you go to malls and they'll tell you, hey, I'm retailer X and I've got 1 million in footfall every month. But now there's a way you can actually ask for statistics to say, what are the peak times? If I'm going to come and advertise or set up a booth, these are the best times to come, even if it's on a weekend or even if it's on a Sunday. The beautiful thing about Angani, and I'm not making a pitch here, is that in the recently we've had veiled comments about certain things being shut down, the possibility of. Think of if you're using AI as something critical in your organization, and it is probably sitting in a cloud outside. And suddenly, a ship anchor crosses with a fiber cable. What happens then? You're essentially crippled. So I think it's a high time also to start looking at these hybrid models that either for purposes of redundancy, you can run workloads both hybrid in terms of bare metal in your organization, or if it's in the cloud, make sure that your cloud is resident in the country, and you've got providers and sponsors like Angani who can help take care of that. So I want to open the floor to the audience, and if you've got any questions for Angani in relation to AI infrastructure deployments that you may have been stewing on, let's see what they have to say about that. Any takers?
My name is Joseph from Mjengo Smart. So my question on Nagan Cloud is that when we're choosing the cloud hosting, apart from the VPS, which I've seen in your site, we also look at a number of other items for communication, like managed database services, maybe the VPs there, the ability to connect locally. So maybe the reason why maybe for me, as I look for a solution, maybe I might go for something else like DigitalOcean, for instance, is because they have a suite of all the aspect I need, like the serverless functions. So today's cloud is a bit comprehensive. Maybe just a VPS might not be enough. So maybe are there plans like to make a complete full suite so that we can have that solution at home? Thank you.
It's about a dialogue with the customer. So you see, you have a customer need, and for us, it's how do we create solutions? We say cloud is like a supermarket, or as you enter a supermarket, the different products. So for us, we don't limit ourselves to just VPSs, servers. We say we are a solutions provider, and there's nothing we can solve. So we have customers who run on, those international cloud providers, and they're able to have DR with the same capability on our cloud. It just needs a bit of looking at the problem from a different angle, but we have that experience with existing customers who are able to actually leverage those tools, those solutions, including our own streaming engine, which has a distributed database running. Yes.
Great. Question at the front here from Mr. Ramsey. Any other takers?
Thank you. I just wanted to know how your cloud computing platform helps if I wanted to, say, run an LLM in the cloud, and if you've had any Kenyan customers actually running their LLMs on there, because there's also a bit of barrier to entry, running your own LLMs on some of these large providers like AWS, cost as well as like the technicalities improved. So I just wanted to know how you guys are maybe tackling that problem.
Okay, thank you for that question. So in my previous slide where I was talking about the differences between training and inferencing, when I also mentioned some LLM models, was to paint a picture of their open models that are free to use. And these models, you don't need to run them on the very latest cutting edge devices. They can run on various different platforms. It's just a matter of getting started. So for us, then to answer your question, the first customer who we have who uses LLMs is ourselves as Zangani. As a research lab, we've deployed Bloom that we're currently testing. And again, that was before deep learning, so I can be honest and say DeepSeek, sorry. And then as soon as this event is over, we have a lot of things in terms of to test out on our platform, but in terms of our customers being able to run these models on our systems, again, it's just a matter of conversation and dialogue. We have the compute resources. We've invested heavily in the networking that is needed. We've also invested in high-speed SSD storage. So for customers who want to just get their hands dirty with the tools, with the various systems, feel free and feel open to get on board or get in touch with us and be able to test and run and see how they perform. And of course, as the platform providers, we are very open to the feedback in terms of how they run, in terms of any kind of metrics, so that we can see how best to improve. But on our platform, we don't have any limitations, and again, we're very cost-friendly.
Are you open to POCs? Because having conversations here, some of the key questions are, yes, I've got a massive data set that I'm working with, but because we don't want to necessarily use, let's call them third-party providers. It's great that it's open source, but how do I get started? Because I need to consider data residency. So if I'm processing my customer data, I want it to be local. Are you open to exploring some of those things because they can help unpack some of the use cases? Otherwise, we remain very abstract in saying there's potential, but you can't really, talk about stuff. Especially just marrying what Ngogi had also said about the ability to reduce the costs of access to the technologies. I think there's something to be done there. So are you guys open to such relationships?
Yes, actually we do offer POCs. I think maybe it's just something we need to market more, but we do offer POCs. And again, it's about the solution and the problem you're trying to solve. So we work hand in hand with organizations to get them on board and to walk them through that journey in terms of helping them achieve what they're trying, what their end goal is. And we pride ourselves in having availability to our technical team so that you're able to ask any questions about the platform and to be able to get any assistance that you need in terms of, any challenges that you may face. So yes, we do offer POCs and we help the customers on that journey in terms of using the platform to get their end results. And it's something for us as a technology company, you'll find that we are going against the grain whereby many companies are automating their support systems. For us, we're choosing to go the other way around because we have customers coming to us and say, we value the fact that we're actually talking to your technical teams because you actually understand my pain point and you're able to guide us through how best to set up. And that is something we take pride in terms of support.
Fantastic. And that's a wrap for this session. Help me appreciate Denson.
Boga.
One more. Yes. Or there's one more question? All right, we'll take that as the last one.
I'd like to know more about the cloud storage, specifically on the CCTV. Basically, do you have maybe a financial institution that you've worked with? And I would like to know more about that. Thank you.
We will have a CCTV backup product whereby we're able to connect to your DVRs, to your NVRs, and your other CCTV equipment to back up that footage on our cloud. And you're able to choose whether you're actually able to back up to fast speed storage, that is SSD storage, or do you want to archive that data on more traditional hard drives. So we're actually able to do that. We do offer that as a service in addition to the CCTV analytics that I did talk about earlier. So yes.
From a banking perspective, if I was managing a branch, I'd like to know what's the speed of my tellers? Or is there a certain customer who comes and, they consume time? You need to go bank a check and there's a customer who's taking all the time. So what's the speed of that? And I think those are some of the analytics that you're saying. It's one thing to use the cloud solution to store. You've got a backup, but what other insights can you do? How many people are walking through the door? What's the average dwell time in terms of people spending in your banking hall? Because the truth is, who wakes up in the morning and says, I look forward to going to the banking hall? Do you? So maybe as a customer, as a point of customer delight, you want to minimize that. So ladies and gentlemen, help me appreciate Team Angani again. Do make sure you check them out. And Nicole, back to you.
I would like to thank our sponsors, the dreamers, the believers who invested in us even as we walk this journey. And at this moment, I would like to have Angani, our silver sponsor, just give their remarks. If we can have a representative from Angani give their remarks. All right, thank you very much. A round of applause for our sponsor, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. It's an honor for us at Angani to sponsor the AI Breakfast Summit 2025. I think I've heard a lot of AI today. And I'm happy to hear that, we always thought that AI is supposed to be a futuristic, it's evolved from a futuristic concept to an everyday reality, and I think it's going to be more so in the very, very near future. This gathering is more than just a discussion about technology. It's about Kenya's transformation through AI and the immense opportunities it represents for innovation and progress. But innovation alone is not enough to unlock AI's full potential. We need strong, reliable infrastructure. I think Denson has given a very good view and also a very good insight on what Angani can provide as cloud infrastructure for AI technology. The AI revolution isn't coming. It's already here. The question is, how do we harness it for the greatest impact? At Angani, we believe in supporting innovators and entrepreneurs by providing the tools they need to build solutions that improve lives. AI has the power to create opportunities, drive economic growth, and tackle critical challenges in agriculture, healthcare, education, and climate resilience. I think many of the speakers today have already proven that they already use AI as part of our economic growth. We are proud to be part of this journey. Let's work together to ensure AI is used ethically, inclusively, and for the benefit of all. Thank you.
A representative from Technology Today.
Hi, everybody. How are we doing today? I'm just here to break the ice. It's such a pleasure to have the opportunity to interact with every one of you. And I really do hope by the time we leave here today, we've all gained something in our own different way. So please allow me to walk you through Technology Today very briefly. All right. I'm happy to see many familiar faces in the room. Some of you know us as Technology Today, and others know us as Tech Today. This all goes back to our roots. About 3 decades ago, when we first founded Tech Today, that time the internet didn't exist. So years later, after the internet came through, we then changed our domain to Tech Today. And you may ask yourself, who are we and what do we do? And most importantly, what value can we bring to your table? So as Tech Today, we're an all-in-one IT firm, all under one roof. And when I say all under one roof, we do everything from an accessory to hardware and softwares. So if it's an accessory, maybe your battery has bloated, or my brother here said he has a dog. You know, if your dog bites your charger cable, come to us, we'll sort you out. We also deal with both corporate and individuals. And I always get this question, you know, if I'm an individual, will the price vary from a corporate? And you don't have to worry. Pricing is all the same. Whether you're an individual, whether you're a corporate, we serve everybody. Now let's talk a bit about hardware and softwares. In this new AI advanced world that we're moving into, there's so many things, from laptops to servers, to firewalls, office softwares, and so forth. Most importantly, who are the people we're working with? We're fortunate enough to be one of the highest ranked partners of HP, Dell, Lenovo, Intel, and the list goes on. Couldn't add them all on one slide. So a few more partners I could just list, name drop. We have Apple, Samsung, APC, Sophos, and so forth. And the fun stuff comes. So how do our products associate with AI? We've got cool printers in the market currently. Now, if you're printing something bulky, it would be a very tedious task. You'd have to go through it individually, throw out the jargon, and then edit it further. Now with AI, that's out of the picture completely. So if you have, maybe you're printing, let's say, an encyclopedia, for example, it has, in the midst of it, maybe it has a lot of advertisements or a lot of unnecessary information and data. The printer is able to neglect that and identify what's important, what's not important. Aside from printers, servers. Why I like the new AI integrated servers? Most of the time when it came to centralizing of servers, you'd have to involve a third party. And that was very costly. Not only costly, there was always that fear of what happens to my privacy, what happens to my data. Now with the new servers that are AI integrated, you have the benefit of using AI applications. These AI applications will no longer need you to bring in a third party. You just have to give it your company guidelines, your rules, your regulations. It will make sure it sticks by those. Yeah? And it's instant. You're not going to access it on a cloud. It's on site. These are workstations, and I was fortunate to actually see a few live demos. These are supercomputers with AI integrated into them. So if you're doing rendering, you're doing architecture, you're a marketing manager and you do a lot of multitasking, yeah, this will be your best friend. It's meant to work around the clock. So super amazing. And actually this year, we're hosting a couple of events with HP, Dell, and Lenovo. So towards the end, I'll give you my contact information, and it would be great to see you guys turn up, have experience with a few of these workstations. You know, we'll throw around a few prototypes and so forth. VRs and headsets. At first, I was debating about this slide, but I said I'll tap into it. And for us to relate more to VR and headsets, I think I would give you an example of myself. When I was in my days of high school, I remember VR was not even a concept so much in Kenya. And I had a classmate of mine. He ended up importing a VR headset from Amazon. And it was a funny device, funny gadget. We'd put our phone in it. And that time, only Samsungs could work. Reason being, it had a gyroscope sensor. So you would download different AI apps on the Play Store, put the phone inside the VR, and then basically get the experience in 144 pixels to 360 pixels. Today, the VRs we're looking at are 4K. So how does this transition into our worlds? Let's say you've been keeping track of the new market trends of conferencing solutions. HP has a few poly cameras. There's one, if you have a central boardroom, you put it in the middle of your table, and every time somebody different speaks, it basically zooms in on the face, and if the person is at an odd angle, it will adjust their eyes and so forth. But now with the VR concept, what's going to be happening, and this is my assumption in the very near future, we're going to have conference meetings with people globally with VRs and headsets. So you wouldn't be able to tell this person is on the other side of the world. Last but not least, we have out-of-the-box laptops and PCs. So these are really cool, and if we're familiar, I could name drop a few common models that some of us are familiar with. Let's say the HP ProBook 440, which is the same family as the EliteBook. We had the G10, which was very common, and there was G10 as Core i5 and as Core i7. But now with the new G11, there's no longer an I. In replacement of an I, there's a U. So you'll see G11 U5 and G11 U7. Yeah? So these are basically AI out of the box. From the moment you take it out of the box, they're trying to be a mini version of yourself. And they'll be able to tell over time what you like, what you don't like, how you address your meetings, and so many cool things. This is very important when it comes to hardware specifically. You know, the main problem we have is maybe you travel a lot, or if not traveling, maybe you've purchased a device, and when it comes to warranty, you're not sure how does the warranty work. Now, we have 2-3 ways as to how we deal with warranty. We could either extend your warranty, so if you bought a machine, it had 1-year warranty. We could give you 3 years warranty, yeah? Shoot up your warranty for you. If you're traveling, let's say you've come from a different region, and by bad luck, your laptop happened to break down in this area, we'll guide you to who exactly to go to. Not only that, we'll pick up your machines for you, get them sorted, drop them back for you. So trying to make it a seamless process, because this is a major concern. You want that peace of mind, and that's where we come in. We're here for you. Logistics. I know logistics is usually quite a big concern for most of us. So we not only do Nairobi, we do all counties, and also all over the region. So we always try our best to get it out to you. You know, even if you're based on an island, we'll always try. See, whether we have to hire a plane and drop you your packages, we'll try our best for you to get it to where you are. And the channel we use is a different channel. So we go strictly by the channel. We don't do gray market at all. So whatever we're giving you is under warranty. When you scan it, everything is legit. Yeah. And not only the warranty aspect, when it comes to HP, Dell, and Lenovo, maybe some of us in this room are not sure what brand to go with. We'd be more than happy to come visit you at your offices, even accompanied by HP, Dell, and Lenovo. Servers, for instance, some of them are very technical. Even me, myself, I struggle. So we'll always come with your preferred partner, yeah, and help you close up on your concerns. Let me touch a bit on the events. I'd also like us to come for the events, whether you'd like to purchase or not. I would encourage us all to come for these events, because that way, not only do you learn, if you bought an HP or a Dell or a Lenovo and you had a bad experience with it, you have the opportunity to confront HP, Dell, Lenovo, just how we were having a session here, and get all your questions and answers under one roof. All right, we're almost done. CSR is a big core of ours, and I think that's where most of us have probably seen tech today. So between COVID and now, we used to own most of the roundabouts from Madaraka, going all the way to Dennis Priest State House, and then Lavington area. And after all, Kenya is our homeland, so we like to just make small changes at a time. So we've done several beautification projects, climate change, and so forth. Though most of our CSR is not public, we like to do it privately. This is just a small part of it. Right. Hope I was short. That's tech today as a whole. In case anybody would like to contact me, for those at the back, my number is +254 114 604 335. Or you could email us. My email is aldrich@tech-today.com. So thank you everybody for your time. It's honestly such a pleasure to see everybody here today. And just a reminder, whatever you do and wherever you go, go with all your heart. And bless you all. Thank you.
Yes, so the reason we decided to start the year with this summit is because this is a very interesting year. We'll see so many breakthroughs from different companies. And my projection is that DeepSeek will reveal another more powerful, more cheaper model before the year ends. So we are still going to see more seismic shifts in that space. And I just wanted to share a few guiding principles for transformative success for AI in 2025. For this year, you need to experiment as much as possible. There's this really cool tool I came across. It's called GPT-4All. How many have heard of it, or how many are using it? GPT-4All? Good. So GPT-4All allows you to run large language models and small language models locally on your machine. And this gives you, and you can do this totally offline. So you download the software, you download the models, and you can start interacting with the models in an offline environment. You don't need the internet. So we need to break this barrier of, yes, we have an infrastructure problem. Some of our areas in the country don't have internet, but you can still download some of these models and run them locally on devices. Then for this year, I would encourage us to focus more on signal as opposed to noise. We have millions of AI tools. So at the end of the day, you need to identify the tools that work for you, and you need to focus on those tools. At the end of the day, you can't experiment with all the tools. then show me the data or create it. So there's this really bad narrative that keeps going around that we don't have data in Africa. We don't have data in Kenya, which is a very wrong mindset. We have the data, but we are not doing the work to properly package and process the data into a large enough format such that it can be leveraged for open source and other large use cases. So we really need to change this mindset. We have smartphones, we have machines. Everyone here has a smartphone, so we are generating so much data, but we need to tap into it. Then open source is king. We've already talked about DeepSeek. It's open source. Llama is open source. All these are giving you a reference point where you can sort of start as you're building your different AI solutions. Then this is the year you need to optimize your workflows. There's this very popular automation tool called Make.com. I think as Clinton left, Clinton is, if he's in the room or if he left, he's one of the solution providers that are tapping into automation solutions such as Make.com and partnering it up with other APIs that are bringing drastic improvements for their clients. Then Agentic AI. So Agentic AI is also going to improve so much this year. Expect to see more agentic and more cheaper agentic AI solutions being introduced. Operator was introduced by OpenAI about a few days ago, but we still have a problem such that it's $200 and then they have a phased out rollout. We are not accessing. I'm in Kenya, I am paying the same $20 as a ChatGPT Plus user, the same that someone in US is paying. But it's very unfair that the person in US gets to receive all the updates early enough, whether it is Sora or whether it's the next model, yet we are paying the same. So we need a united voice to sort of advocate for some of these topics, because it is very unfair that a consumer in Africa is paying the same as a consumer in US, yet we are still getting phased rollout of products. Then evals. Evaluation will be a key skill set that will differentiate the people who want to really innovate around AI. So these are skill sets that you really need to pick this year and make sure that your team understands it. Then small models over large language models. There's still the wrong perception and the wrong perspective when it comes to building AI. Everyone thinks about building a large language models. If you're a small entrepreneur, the reality is you can't afford the compute that will allow you to build the large language models at the same scale as ChatGPT, at the same scale as Meta, and so on. You need to focus on starting with small language models first. Be very vertical as opposed to doing horizontal applications. Let us change the mindset that if you're in healthcare, you start building a small language model that is tackling specific healthcare use cases before you can start leveraging the large language models, or before you can start thinking of working on the large language models. To good news, this summit was the first one. It totally sold out, which is a very good thing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for signing up. We'll be having this every quarter. So after every 2 months, at the end of the third month, we'll be having one. The next one is in April. We have more exciting topics. We are looking for sponsors so that we can roll this out to be a full-day event as opposed to a half-day event. So we'll announce all this on our page. And then if you're a company and you want to share your solutions, you want to talk about your products, similar to what Ngugi, Priscilla, Oscar, Denson, and the rest of the speakers did, you can apply to be a speaker. So you can just take a picture of this QR code. We'll also share it in the post-event email, and you can submit, and we can consider you for speaking opportunities. And then lastly, for AI Kenya, this year we are doing more commercial products with clients. We are doing more advisory. We are doing more solution building. We are training more organizations on how to tackle and how to think about winning the AI race. So please contact us for that. We're also offering AI readiness audits so that you can go to your organization and know where do you fall in terms of AI implementation. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. This QR code has our WhatsApp group, our website, our LinkedIn page, our YouTube page. Everything is on that QR code, so please interact with it. And thank you for attending today.